The morning started like any other on our sprawling 100-acre ranch in rural Virginia, with my 12-year-old son, Ethan, out on Silver Lake, his fishing rod in hand and an old aluminum boat bobbing beneath him. He was in his element, lost in the simple joy of summer, trying to coax a bass onto his hook. I was inside our weathered farmhouse, juggling emails and coffee, filling in as a solo dad while my wife, Laura, was halfway across the globe on a UN contract in Tokyo. Then my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number, and everything changed. The voice on the other end was syrupy sweet, the kind that masks a knife. "Hello, David. This is Susan Caldwell from the Willow Creek Homeowners Association," she purred, her tone dripping with false warmth. "We have a situation. Your son is trespassing on community property, and some residents are worried about liability. The police are on their way." My jaw tightened. Susan's smug certainty, her emphasis on community property, set my nerves on edge. As a civil engineer who'd spent years navigating high-stakes contracts, I knew how to keep my cool, but her words lit a fire in me. She thought she'd cornered us, but she had no idea what I'd been planning for months. By the time Susan's pristine black SUV rolled up our gravel drive, followed by Officer Tom Delgado's patrol car, I was ready. Ethan, oblivious, waved from the lake, his grin wide as he cast another line. Tom, a seasoned cop with a no-nonsense air, looked baffled as Susan launched into her rehearsed speech. "Officer, this child is illegally using our community lake," she declared, gesturing toward the marina on the far shore, where boats gleamed under the morning sun. "It's a clear case of trespassing." Tom scratched his head, glancing at Ethan's tiny boat. "Ma'am, I'll need to see proof this lake is community property." Susan's smile flickered, but she pressed on, insisting the marina's history of community use made her case airtight. That's when I reached into my jacket and pulled out a manila folder I'd been carrying for weeks. "Officer, this is the 1892 deed to our ranch, along with a recent county survey," I said, my voice steady. "Silver Lake is entirely on our land." Susan's face drained of color as Tom studied the documents, his finger tracing the boundary lines. "This can't be right," she stammered. "The marina, the boat slips, we've used them for years." Tom shook his head. "These papers say the lake's private. Any community use would have needed the owner's permission." What Susan didn't know was that her 911 call had landed on the exact day a secret deal I'd orchestrated became official. For 2 months, I'd been negotiating with the marina's owner, Walter Hayes, a 70-year-old man weighed down by guilt and medical bills for his wife, Clara, who was battling Alzheimer's. Walter had confessed to me late one night, his voice trembling, that he'd pressured my late grandmother into an informal water-sharing deal 20 years ago, a deal never filed with the county, void upon her death. Susan had sniffed out his vulnerability and offered to buy the marina for pennies, promising to solve his water rights issue if he helped her force me to sell the ranch. Her plan? Turn the waterfront into luxury condos and cash out big. But Walter, haunted by his past and Susan's threats against Ethan, chose redemption instead. In a Delaware law office, we'd finalized a deal that gave him 30% more than Susan's low-ball offer, covered Clara's care for 5 years, and handed me the marina's keys. The transfer was structured to stay off public records, filed under attorney-client privilege, invisible to Susan's prying eyes. As Tom handed back the deed, I pulled out the real bombshell, a stack of documents proving I now owned the marina, complete with water rights and environmental permits. Susan's jaw dropped, her composure shattering. "This is impossible," she gasped. "How could you? When did you?" Tom, scanning the papers, nodded. "These are legitimate. Mr. Bennett's the new owner, effective today." The neighbors who'd gathered, expecting to see us humiliated, murmured in shock. Ethan, paddling closer, called out, "Dad, did I catch a big one yet?" His innocence cut through the tension, and I saw Tom stifle a grin. "You sure did, kid," I called back, my eyes locked on Susan's panicked face. Then I dropped the final blow. "Officer, our marina purchase included an environmental report. It shows years of illegal runoff from the marina fuel spills, untreated waste that the HOA ignored." Susan froze. The crowd's whispers grew louder. "It seems," I added, "community funds meant for maintenance might have been misdirected." Susan's retaliation was swift and vicious. By afternoon, she'd launched a social media campaign, posting in the Willow Creek group with calculated concern. "Dear neighbors," she wrote, "we must protect our shared resources. Recent events highlight the need to clarify property rights. Her words never named us, but painted Ethan and me as greedy newcomers threatening the community's way of life. She organized a legal workshop with attorney Rachel Thornton, a name that sent a chill down my spine. Laura had clashed with Rachel years ago in a water rights case, leaving Rachel humiliated and vowing revenge. This wasn't just about the lake, it was personal. Susan's campaign hit Ethan hardest. His friend Liam's mom banned him from our ranch, citing legal drama. Ethan came home, eyes red, clutching his phone. "Dad, why is Liam saying I'm stealing the lake?" My heart broke, but I stayed calm, promising we'd fix it with facts. Susan and Rachel escalated with a lawsuit, accusing our ranch of disrupting the watershed and harming the Marina's ecosystem. The claims were vague, designed to bury us in legal fees, but they twisted Laura's environmental advocacy into a weapon against us. I called my old colleague, Dr. Emily Chin, who ran a water quality assessment. Her findings were a game-changer. The Marina, not our lake, was the polluter, leaking petroleum and runoff for decades. Susan's crown jewel was an environmental disaster, and her lawsuit had just exposed it. Walter's confession sealed her fate. He handed me documents showing Susan knew about the violations and planned to exploit them to seize our land. Her emails to him, demanding he sign her purchase agreement or face exposure, were a goldmine of evidence. The turning point came when I showed Tom the Marina ownership papers in front of the community. Susan's house of cards collapsed as neighbors realized she'd misled them. Walter, at a press conference by the lake, revealed how Susan tried to exploit Clara's illness, turning the community against her. The HOA ousted her, and the county prosecutor uncovered her diversion of maintenance funds to pay for lawyers and private investigators. Rachel, facing evidence of Susan's fraud, abandoned her client to save her own skin. Susan's final gambit accusing me of manipulating Walter backfired when he publicly praised our deal, calling me the man who saved his family. Weeks later, Susan stood at our gate, her car packed, her face hollow. Ethan, wise beyond his years, suggested we hear her out. In our kitchen, she admitted her fear of losing control after a bitter divorce drove her to extremes. "I never meant to hurt your son," she whispered, but her remorse couldn't undo the pain she'd caused. She left town facing prison for fraud and fund misappropriation, her dreams of wealth in ashes. The Willow Creek Marina, renamed Bennett Community Marina, became a symbol of renewal. Ethan taught kids to fish, neighbors restored the lake, and Tom became a regular, casting lines with my son to escape the cynicism of his job. Laura called, promising summers at the ranch, her voice thick with pride. As I watched Ethan laugh by the lake, I realized the sweetest victory isn't just outsmarting a bully, it's building something they could never destroy. Susan underestimated us, thinking her authority was absolute. But with patience, truth, and a few well-timed documents, we turned her game against her. Have you ever faced someone who thought they could crush you? Share your story. Sometimes, all it takes is grit and a plan to show them they picked the wrong fight.